Hello and welcome to our second day looking at 9.2. Today you'll be able to find the vertex using the axis of symmetry from a quadratic equation. We've done that with a graph. Now we want to just use an equation. To find the vertex from a quadratic equation, we're going to find the axis of symmetry using this formula. You want to have that written down whenever you're working these problems. Substitute your answer into x in the equation and then solve for y. And then we'll write the vertex. It will be the ordered pair x and y. We call it HK if you can remember from our work in transformations. All right, so finding the axis of symmetry from the equation instead of the graph. Generally speaking, quadratic functions look like this. The axis of symmetry is the vertical line x equals negative b over 2a. Goes right through the middle of the graph. For example, if we had y equals 2x squared plus 4x plus 5, the axis of symmetry is going to come from doing negative b, which in this case is positive 4, so negative 4 over 2 times a is 2. If you do the math there, 2 times 2 is 4, so negative 4 over positive 4, x equals negative 1. All right, that gets us our axis of symmetry. We know that'll go through the vertex, so basically we have the x-coordinate of our vertex. You have found the vertex of a parabola from the graph. You can also find using this axis of symmetry we now know how to find. So first find the zeros or vertex to find the axis of symmetry. In this case, the vertex looks like it's down here at negative 4, negative 1. So if we did have a graph, and we won't for problems in the mastery work or on the test, if we did have a graph, we could find the vertex easily, negative 4, negative 1. We could also verify it using the zeros, in this case a negative 2 plus negative 6 over 2. That gives us negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. And negative 4 plugged into the equation, a fourth times 16 when you square negative 4. So a fourth of 16 would be 4 minus 8, because we have this 2 times negative 4, and then plus 3. And if we do that math, 4 plus 3 is 7. That'll give us a vertex of negative 4, negative 1. Now, again, we don't have a graph in many situations for much of this work today. So let's use our formula now, see if we can get this information. When we plug in for this equation, negative b is positive 2, so negative 2 over 2 times a fourth, that's what 0.25 is. Well, 2 times a fourth is a half. If you divide a half into negative 2, you do that on a calculator, or if you do it by hand, you find that we get negative 4, and that'll be our h. Now that we have h, we can find k by plugging in. We've already done that. So we know that k equals negative 1. Our vertex is negative 4, negative 1. All right, now let's do it without the aid of a graph. So using this equation, let's find the axis of symmetry, which is going to give us our x-coordinate vertex. So when we plug in this case, b is negative 4, so negative 4 over, and this is what h will equal for us, divided by 2 times 1, that's just a 2. So we get 4 over 2, which is 2. H is 2. We plug in to find k. This will equal 4 minus 8 minus 10. In this case, negative 14. So our vertex is 2, negative 14. We can take a moment here and notice that since a is greater than 0, it's positive, we would say that this parabola will open up. We could also say that this k is a minimum, and that's going to come up in some of the work we do. Let's continue here. Find the vertex for this equation. The way you'll do that is like we've done. So I'm going to ask you to get started on this. See if you can get the h, and then we'll pause and we'll continue through the problem. So try to find h by identifying the a and the b correctly. Hit pause. Okay, h is going to equal negative 6 over 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, so negative 6 over 6 equals negative 1. So hopefully you got h equals negative 1. Now we're going to substitute our value for h in, and let's see if you can find k. All right, I'm going to get positive 3 because negative 1 squared is positive 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 6 times negative 1 gives us a minus 6, and then a plus 5. In this case, we have an 8 positive minus 6, so we get a positive 2. Since a is positive again, we could say this is a minimum value. And we can say our vertex is negative 1, comma 2. All right. Here's an application, a little more involved, but the work comes out very similarly once we have the equation. As Molly dives into her pool, her height in feet above the water can be modeled by the function given here, h of t, negative 16t squared plus 16t plus 12. We're going to use our axis of symmetry where t is the time in seconds after she begins diving. Find the maximum height and the time it takes Molly to reach this height. Well, our time is going to be this x equation, and so we have negative b over 2a, which is negative 16. It's this 16 here, the b, not the a. So it's negative of a positive 16. And then 2 times negative 16, that's the a, so that's a negative 32. We get negative 16 over negative 32. Negative over negative is positive. We get a positive 1/2. So it happens a half a second into her dive. And if we plug in a half here, we're going to get, and this is going to be 1/2 here. And if we plug in here, we're going to get negative 16 times a half squared, that's a fourth. So negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4, plus half of 16, that's a 8, and then the 12. And when we do the math here, we get 20 for 8 plus 12 minus 4, so 16. She's at 16 feet above the water. All right, that concludes our lesson. We'll see you in class. Try the on your own. We'll see you in class.